Every story leaves a mark on history. Every civilization has a story. And every mystery deserves to be remembered. More than a century ago, the world believed it had built the greatest ship ever created, a masterpiece destined to change history forever. She was called RMS Titanic, the largest and most luxurious passenger ship of her time, admired by millions across the world. Built at the famous Harland and Wolff shipyard in Belfast, Titanic represented the very peak of human engineering and ambition. More than 15,000 workers spent years constructing this engineering marvel, using millions of steel rivets and enormous plates. Advanced watertight compartments and powerful machinery convinced many people that this magnificent ship could never sink. Stretching nearly 270 meters long, Titanic dwarfed almost every other passenger ship sailing the Atlantic. The dedication and craftsmanship of thousands of workers transformed an ambitious dream into one of history's greatest engineering achievements. As final preparations were completed in Southampton, excitement spread among passengers eager to begin an unforgettable voyage across the Atlantic. To the world, Titanic was more than a ship. She was a symbol of progress, confidence, and the unstoppable power of human innovation. But within just a few days, that symbol of hope would become the center of one of the greatest maritime tragedies in history. On April 10, 1912, thousands gathered at Southampton as RMS Titanic prepared to begin her long-awaited maiden voyage across the Atlantic. Passengers from every walk of life stepped aboard, carrying dreams of adventure, opportunity, and a new beginning in America. At exactly noon, Titanic slowly pulled away from Southampton, cheered by enormous crowds watching history set sail before their eyes. Moments after departure, Titanic narrowly avoided colliding with the steamship New York, an early warning few would ever remember. Later that evening, Titanic arrived at Cherbourg, France, where more passengers boarded the magnificent ocean liner. The following day, Titanic made her final European stop at Queenstown, Ireland, welcoming the last passengers and mail aboard. Commanding the voyage was Captain Edward Smith, Britain's most respected sea captain, making what would become his final journey. Leaving Ireland behind, Titanic entered the vast North Atlantic, confidently sailing toward New York at nearly full speed. Life aboard felt peaceful and exciting as passengers relaxed on deck, unaware that every mile carried them closer to destiny. The voyage had begun perfectly, but hidden beyond the endless horizon, danger was already drifting silently toward Titanic. Aboard Titanic, passengers entered a world of elegance, unlike anything ever seen at sea. Every deck reflected extraordinary luxury and craftsmanship. The magnificent grand staircase welcomed first-class guests beneath a beautiful glass dome, surrounded by polished oak, ironwork, and elegant lighting. First-class suites rivaled the finest hotels in the world, featuring private bedrooms, luxurious furniture, and breathtaking ocean views. Passengers enjoyed lavish dining rooms, where world-class chefs prepared extraordinary meals served on fine china and silverware. Titanic also featured electric elevators, Turkish baths, a heated swimming pool, squash courts, and modern comforts far ahead of their time. Even second-class accommodations offered impressive comfort, providing elegant cabins and spacious public rooms rarely found on other ships. Third-class passengers traveled in clean, comfortable cabins, enjoying better conditions than many had ever experienced on land. Every corner of the ship reflected remarkable attention to detail, from polished brass railings to handcrafted woodwork and luxurious furnishings. By day, passengers relaxed on the open decks, breathing the fresh Atlantic air while admiring the endless horizons. To everyone on board, Titanic seemed more than a ship. It was a floating palace, built to represent the very peak. For 4 unforgettable days, Titanic crossed the Atlantic in perfect comfort. The voyage seemed flawless, and no one sensed the danger waiting beyond the horizon. Passengers filled the grand dining rooms, relaxed on the open decks, and admired the endless ocean, believing they were sailing aboard the safest ship ever built. Far to the north, enormous icebergs drifted silently from Greenland, carried south by powerful ocean currents into the busy Atlantic shipping lanes. Throughout April 14th, nearby ships transmitted urgent wireless messages warning of dangerous ice fields directly along Titanic's planned route. One warning after another described growing numbers of icebergs, urging every captain to reduce speed and navigate with extreme caution. Inside Titanic's wireless room, operators worked tirelessly, sending hundreds of passenger telegrams. while important iceberg reports continued arriving throughout the day. Some warnings reached Captain Edward Smith and his officers, while others were delayed beneath the constant stream of commercial wireless traffic. As darkness covered the Atlantic, temperatures dropped below freezing. The unusually calm sea made icebergs almost impossible to spot in the night. High above the deck, lookouts Frederick Fleet and Reginald Lee carefully searched the silent horizon without binoculars, relying only on their eyes. Then, at exactly 11:40 p.m., a massive shadow suddenly appeared ahead. In just a few seconds, Titanic's fate would be sealed forever. At exactly 11:40 p.m., lookout Frederick Fleet suddenly spotted a towering iceberg directly ahead and immediately rang the warning bell. On the bridge, First Officer William Murdoch reacted instantly, ordering a hard turn and commanding the engines to reverse with only seconds remaining. The massive ship slowly began turning, but Titanic's enormous size left little room and even less time to avoid the danger. Moments later, the iceberg scraped along Titanic's starboard side, tearing open the steel hull beneath the waterline with terrifying force. Below deck, freezing Atlantic water rushed into the forward compartments, flooding boiler rooms and overwhelming the crew within minutes. Chief Designer Thomas Andrews quickly inspected the damage, realizing the iceberg had breached multiple watertight compartments beyond the ship's limits. After carefully studying the damage, Andrews delivered the devastating truth. Titanic could not stay afloat and would eventually sink beneath the Atlantic. Above deck, most passengers noticed only a slight vibration, unaware that the greatest maritime disaster in history had already begun. As freezing water continued rising through the lower decks, Captain Edward Smith quietly prepared for the unimaginable decisions that lay ahead. Shortly after midnight, the order was finally given: prepare the lifeboats and awaken every passenger. Aboard Titanic. Just after midnight, Captain Edward Smith gave the order to uncover the lifeboats. The evacuation of Titanic had officially begun. Crew members called for women and children first, while many passengers still believed the lifeboats were only a precaution. The first lifeboat slowly descended into the freezing Atlantic, carrying only a handful of passengers despite having room for many more. Inside the wireless room, operators Jack Phillips and Harold Bride desperately transmitted distress calls, hoping another ship would answer before it was too late. Bright distress rockets lit up the night sky, but the brilliant white flares were mistaken by distant ships as harmless company signals. Even as fear spread across the decks, Wallace Hartley and his orchestra continued playing, bringing comfort and courage to those facing the unimaginable. As more lifeboats departed, panic slowly replaced disbelief. Families were separated forever as husbands watched their wives and children disappear into the darkness. The bow continued sinking lower with every passing minute, making it impossible to hide the terrifying truth that Titanic was slowly dying. From the lifeboats, survivors watched in silence as the brilliantly illuminated giant drifted farther away, still glowing against the black Atlantic. With only a few lifeboats remaining, hundreds of people were still trapped aboard. Time was running out, and the final moments had begun. By nearly 2 o'clock in the morning, Titanic's bow had sunk deep beneath the icy Atlantic, making it impossible to hide the ship's tragic fate. The last lifeboats left the ship carrying only a fraction of those still trapped aboard, leaving hundreds with no chance of escape. Even as fear spread across the decks, Wallace Hartley and his orchestra continued playing, offering one final act of courage and comfort. Captain Edward Smith quietly walked the bridge one last time, fulfilling his duty as his magnificent ship slowly slipped beneath the sea. Deep below, engineers continued keeping the lights and power running, sacrificing their own lives so others might survive a little longer. Freezing seawater surged through Titanic's grand staircase in elegant halls, destroying the luxury that had once amazed the entire world. Families embraced one another, prayers echoed across the decks, and many accepted that the end was now only moments away. As the bow disappeared beneath the ocean, Titanic's enormous stern slowly rose high into the freezing night sky above the Atlantic. The strain became too great. Titanic's mighty steel structure failed, and the legendary ship broke apart before beginning its final plunge. At 2:20 a.m. on April 15, 1912, RMS Titanic disappeared beneath the Atlantic forever, leaving only darkness, silence, and hundreds struggling in the freezing sea. As dawn slowly approached, the few remaining lifeboats drifted silently across the freezing Atlantic, carrying survivors who had witnessed the unimaginable. The icy ocean was now calm, but hundreds of people were still waiting to be rescued as distress signals faded into the darkness. Although many lives had been saved, the heartbreaking reality soon became clear. More than 500 people had been lost in the freezing Atlantic. everyone's still waiting for rescue, and many chids and elders taking care of each other. Hours later, RMS Titanic finally arrived, racing through the night after receiving Titanic's desperate distress calls. One by one, exhausted survivors were carefully brought aboard, receiving warmth, food, and medical care after a night of unimaginable hardship. News of the tragedy quickly spread across the world, leaving millions shocked that the greatest ship ever built had disappeared beneath the sea. The disaster transformed maritime safety forever, leading to stricter regulations, more lifeboats, and continuous radio communication on passenger ships. For decades, Titanic remained hidden beneath the Atlantic until explorers finally discovered the wreck in 1985, resting nearly 4,000 meters below the surface. A century later, Titanic is remembered not only for how it sank, but for the lives, stories, and lessons that continue